Folks are collecting links for Odyssey, Bit Chute. Join the channel, support channel, coffee, the various other links. Join the Telegram. It's a good way to keep in touch. The funny thing about this interview is he goes, I go hard on Trump. Okay, fair enough. I mean, who didn't go hard on Trump? Everyone on the left in Hollywood went on hard on Trump. But Jesse's a small actor on a small show that's kind of known as a black show. I never saw it. I don't even know. I think it was called Empire. So he's a BLT black Jewish actor on a show that the fan base is probably 90% black. And he goes, I go hard on Trump. So that's why these two MAGA guys, I'm sure they were, in white hoods and stars and bars in a 4x4 truck and spitting tobacco, Chicago in 20-degree weather. It's just MAGA country, boy. You got some hay sticking out from behind the ears. Chicago is MAGA country. It didn't vote that way, so I'm not quite sure what they meant by that. The story would be better if you were like in any other part of the country. In Florida, maybe it would kind of make sense. So he tells this ridiculous story, and everyone's hearing the story, and at first you hear it, you think, that's just horrible. It's happened to this guy. He got attacked, and you think, wait a minute, the show he's on, it's like a black show, right? It's like only anyone could watch it. Yeah, but realistically, who's watching the show? A show I've never heard of. It's going to be mostly black people who are able to recognize him. But his assailants, he says, were fair-skinned. So they watch a show with a gay, black, Jewish guy who they hate well enough to be able to recognize him and just run across him randomly, or they're following him around. I mean, this is a B actor on a B show. And these two white guys in their stars and bars and tobacco spitting, they watch the show well enough to know this gay black Jewish actor and to track him down so that they could put a piece of laundry line around his neck and slap him around a little bit. Well, like if they're dedicated, one, they would have just put a bullet in you. I don't know the homicide clearance rate in Chicago, but I guarantee you it's not very good. They would have just used a revolver and put all six in you, and there's no casings to pick up, and they would have just walked away. Honestly, they probably would have never been caught, because that's what happens in a major city. You just walk away from that kind of stuff. Not that I'm advocating anything illegal. In fact, I probably shouldn't have said that on YouTube. It was just a legal hypothetical. But no, they just slapped them around. Like, you mean they beat the hell out of them? Like two big guys who were, presumably they know what they're doing physically. Otherwise, they wouldn't have accosted a young, healthy, 30-year-old who looks like he's in shape. Like, you're talking about two guys who were really put together, doing some jiu-jitsu on the side, so they put on the gloves and decide to work you over. No, they just slapped me around, and I fought them off. So then, usually it's, why would they pick a fight with you that they knew they didn't have overwhelming odds of winning? As soon as you start thinking about the story, you get down these paths, and it's like you start pointing out, like, I'm sure the detective is going down the story, and he's looking at the story, and like, he looks at it within a minute. Him and his assistant or his partner is probably going like, there's no way this happened. Like, they're going into it. They know that. Okay, so can we see your phone? What do you want to see my phone for? Yeah, we just, we want to check to make sure that there's no nobody who threatened you on the phone or, called and hung up. We just want to clear our bases. No. At that point, Jesse knew he had screwed up. Yeah, Jesse, you screwed up a little bit. It's not like, okay, he's going to go to jail for a couple of months. Yeah, I know he's sentenced to something, but I don't think he's going to serve all that time. And you got Kim Fox. She's a Soros-appointed DA, the Mutual Combat DA, who tried to get you off. You had Obama and Kamala and a bunch of other people who were going to bat for you. Even Biden, Obama, and Obama's wife were tweeting about you, and Kamala was tweeting about you. Everyone was going to bat for you. Like, you thought you had this in the bag, and then suddenly you didn't have it in the bag. And it's weird that he has so many powerful friends. So here's the thing. He made some comment. He goes, I'm not going to self-delete, as he's leaving the courtroom. And when I first heard that, you probably thought, this guy's just a drama queen. It's nonsense. because he's hinting that he's got some Epstein type connections, right? But you start to think about it, and you see a bunch of pictures with him and all these, like Kim Fox is George Soros appointed DA. I mean, he paid like $600,000 to put her in office. He's got pictures with Obama, Kamala, all these other people, like the most powerful people in America. Maybe he does have these connections, these kind of Epstein connections. Maybe he's crazy. It's probably crazy, but like he does know these powerful people. And it's like, is he into this Epstein type of stuff? I don't know. I mean, you'll find out if he makes it out of jail, or if he tragically slipped and fell, or the cameras went out like they did for Epstein, and like they did for Jean-Luc Bernstein, Bernberg or something, in France. The guy, cameras went out for him, and he self-deleted in prison. What a coinky dink. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know. But the thing is, if he does tragically slip and fall in the shower and break every bone in his body, well, nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to do anything about it. The puppet masters, if they can go into a prison and take out Epstein and Jean-Luc and a bunch of other people, whoever they want, mugging's gone wrong where they don't take anything, but they put 2 hollow points in the back of your dome. It's like, they didn't take the wallet, didn't take the shoes, didn't take anything, just put 258 grain in the back of the skull. That doesn't look like a mugging gone wrong. From a revolver, so there's no casings behind. It's like, that's not a mugging, that's a hit. That's a hit, dude. It's like, you'd think the media would look into that, or district attorneys or the FBI or somebody would look into that. And I was like, no, you don't live in the country you thought you lived in. Like the view that Hollywood, the image that Hollywood builds of the media, the reporting media, it's like I have this image from movies from like the 80s, and I realize like, oh, I mean, now I know it's complete bullshit, but like you've watched these movies like, oh, the media is going to go into the firefight to get the story, and they're going to speak truth to power. And like you tell it to the media and they're going to blow the story wide open. You're like, no, that's all Hollywood bullshit. None of that happens. None of that happens. You'd have to go back 50 years before you had any hope of that happening, getting a story to like that. It's like it's kind of a Hollywood cliche, but I don't think they'd even bother doing it anymore. That kind of a Pelican Brief, John Grisham type of cliche. Get the story to the media. It's going to blow it wide open. We're going to blow the doors off this. It's like, no, the media's just not even going to pick up the story, because it's like, I get paid $87,000 a year to, do some reporting, but it's not worth getting deleted over to do some story that, like on Epstein or Soros or one of these kind of guys. It's like, so what happened to the reporter? Oh, SWAT actually swatted the wrong house and deleted him and his family. Oh, so it's a reporter who was doing a story on Epstein and Soros and all this kind of stuff, and SWAT took him out. Huh? That's weird. Anyone want to look into that? And suddenly all the reporters are all kind of busy. They don't have any interest in looking into that. So what happens? It's like, well, it has a chilling effect, as the Supreme Court has said. It has a chilling effect where that, so who runs the government? Oh, there's a government that has the face of the government, and then underneath it is this hidden hand who has the power to bypass due process and reach into France and USA's prison system and delete people. And the reason I mentioned that the bypass and due process is because when you do that, when the state steps aside and says, okay, you can escape, you can send in a hitman into a jail to take somebody out, the state has given you your constitutional rights of due process and giving you this punishment. And it's not a cruel and unusual punishment. It's according to the laws of the state, and it doesn't violate the Constitution. So that's the only thing that's supposed to happen to you. You should be safe under the state's care. Because if they wanted to give you a more serious punishment, then it should have been decided in a court of law. But if the state is willing to step aside, bypass due process, then that means that person is acting as an agent of the state. So the state itself is deemed responsible for bypassing due process and deleting this guy, Epstein. And I don't know how many people know how important that is in the timeline of a history of a country. It's like, you want to say, well, when did the country one of these little points on the timeline of the growing corruption in a country. It's like, well, the Epstein was the last, I mean, a very, very obvious point. And people it doesn't really click in people's minds because they think, oh, Epstein was one of the worst things you could be. Yeah, absolutely. And whatever punishment that the state deemed appropriate should have been the punishment that was applied and followed. But if you're willing to say, okay, we're going to step aside and let someone else go in there, well, then who's really running the country? Because it's not somebody that we elected. It's this hidden hand. It's this second parallel government that it's like having ecclesiastical court. There's back in the old days, there were different types. There's 3 different types of court legal system. I mean, the legal court of law was one of them. And there's like it's like having a religious court. That pops up for people who are connected to this, I don't know, wealthy, powerful people who are connected to these Epstein types. So you have this other court that is secretly able to effectively overturn a decision of the court of law. I'm saying I'm not able to articulate it properly, but it's a very important thing. It's like it's like when it's like somebody getting kicked off social media and all of a sudden people are getting debanked for having political views, getting kicked off social media, getting debanked, and suddenly you realize, oh, you don't have the rights you thought you did, or you don't live in the nation that you thought you lived in, where people valued the Constitution, they valued the idea of free speech, and you realize like, oh no, there's a bunch of people out there who actively hate it. And so you've kind of like this detrimental reliance concept of relying on social media to be the new town square, and people assumed, oh, well, there'll be like a fair terms of service and there'll be free speech and there'll be this like due process concept. And then when they started getting rid of right of center viewpoints, you realize, oh, wait a minute, politics is downstream from culture. If social media controls the narrative, then you held your last election in 2016. There's no other elections after that if you don't have fair access to the new digital town square. That's the open marketplace of ideas, is the social media. I'm trying to say, like, all these things are way more important than we think they are. And they go, oh, why isn't the media covering it? Because, well, they're not going to cover the Epstein stuff because it would put them in physical danger to do. Like, this video will get 50 people will watch this video. I can say anything I want about all that kind of stuff, as long as it makes it past the YouTube algorithm. But 50 views, I'm not in any danger from some kind of hit squad. But somebody who had, a salty, is not even going to cover this type of stuff. Or nobody with a big channel is going to cover anything important because you realize, like, oh, they know the way of the world also. So the only people who are going to cover this are going to be channels that are below a certain size on Odyssey and Bit Chute, that kind of stuff, where it's not able to go massively viral in a way that YouTube does. Anyway, we're headed for, I hate saying that, kind of like we're headed for dark days and buckle up, campers, and things are about to get worse. Because it sounds so edgy and so 4chan stupid, but you read history, like, what's coming, right? This is all just history, just kind of repeats itself. So, white rice and liberty devices. They tell you you don't need a gun. Well, you should buy 2. They tell you don't need it, you need it, and you need one for your neighbor who's also might need to stand watch. Anyway, support me on Coffee. Go to Odyssey, Bit Chute, Telegram, and I will see you guys on Odyssey, Bit Chute, Gab, and all the alt platforms.